Morning, folks. So, yesterday was an interesting day of news for Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. We got tons of it, even if we didn't actually get very much news at all. We did get the kit reveal for Hate Fueled Maul, who is a lot harder to say the name of when you're not saying Spider Maul. We did find out that Satele Shan is the Conquest character upcoming, and it does appear that we have found out how CG is planning to tackle Relic Delta in Conquest. So let's backtrack a little bit for those of you that don't remember. When Relic Delta was in its infancy, those of us that were part of the beta team kind of said, hey guys, what's your plan for Conquest? Are you planning on making this harder for the majority of the community, or are you looking into this? What's going on? And CG basically said to us, hey, we are going to lower the relic levels of the characters in Conquest. So Sector 1 in hard mode is Relic 4. Sectors 2 through 5 are all Relic 5. Sector 5 used to be Relic 8, which was great until a few of us came back and said, that's awesome, but it doesn't work for us because what about things like, Padawan, Obi-Wan, and players who are veterans, and now a lot of their characters that they use, they're going to be at a Relic Delta of 4, and they're not going to be able to feat farm, and this is going to be so problematic. And CG came back at us again and said, hey, listen, we're going to take a look at this. We're going to solve this problem. We're going to find a way that basically makes things exactly as they are now, or if we have to, make it more player forward. And we've got news on how they intend to do that in the upcoming Conquest cycles. I would be remiss to not also mention that as of right now, it appears that the flag for Relic Delta in Conquest is still turned off. I don't know if that is intended. I don't know if that's going to be fixed. I don't know if they're planning on turning that on Monday, if they forgot what is going on. Maybe they are using this specific Conquest to test their hypothesis and their planned fixes before they actually turn it on. But either way, we did get what they expect to do. And I really want to talk about these F-34T Training Droids as a data disk and why I don't think it's actually the answer. So stay tuned. So basically, CG has done two things in this upcoming Conquest that we know of so far to set the stage for Relic Delta in Conquest. The first is that they have rearranged some of the global feats in a kind of interesting way. I don't really fully get it, but fine, do what you want to do and do it the way that you want to do it. And they also gave us a new training droid, a new data disk called the F-34T Training Droid, which should be relatively easy to acquire. So first of all, when we look at the feats for this upcoming Conquest, we see that to defeat at least 250 enemies on the Golden Challenge path is now only worth 1 key card down from 15, but those 14 additional key cards have been placed across the other feats. The Bounty Hunter feat, the Keller and Beck feat, the Accuracy Up feat, the Evasion Down feat. Great, good, great, grand, wonderful, right? Perfect for me as a veteran player, but realistically, those defeat at least 250 enemies on the Golden Challenge path was probably one of the easier things that just about any player could feasibly do if they wanted to. And now we are taking those feats and we are placing them against more specialized feats. Doesn't change anything for me at all, but I do think it could have a small negative effect on a lot of players. That Golden Challenge path feat that is now worth only 1 data disk is also going to give you a new data disk, the F-34T Training Droids. Good news, we already know what that is going to do. It's right here, F-34T Training Droids. At the start of battle, all enemies are inflicted with tenacity down until the end of battle, which can't be dispelled, prevented, and are immune to tenacity up. Enemies can't have their health reduced below 1% while the enemy leader is present, but can be instantly defeated. So essentially, what CG is saying here is, hey, by the way, you can now equip this data disk when you are ready to start your farming. and you can farm feats as much as you want in a single battle over the course of your 5-minute battle count. It's a step in the right direction, but it really doesn't consider all of the variables of data disk farming or of conquest farming, right? So let's think about this from the perspective of somebody who spends way more money than I do. Some of these players, they are doing their conquests in 2 to 3. I know some players that do it in 1 day, and they burn through those feats as quickly and as efficiently as they possibly can, spending a lot of money. But now CG is saying, hey, by the way, your feat farming doesn't really kick in until you've gotten to presumably about Sector 3 or Sector 4, when you can choose to turn this on or turn it off. Realistically, most players probably aren't going to turn it on until they've actually completed the entire conquest. Now, I am not in this demographic, but I understand that that player is going to have to fundamentally completely shift how they are going to do their conquest in the future because of this one change. For most of us, however, the difference really is in how we approach our conquest and why this just doesn't work. I'll use my own roster as an example. As a 14.2 million player, my goal in conquest is to be efficient and to be as efficient as possible over the first 6 days of conquest. My goal is to get to the end of each sector, having completed at a bare minimum at least 2 of the feats, and my 3rd and 4th feat being relatively close. So within like 2 or 3 battles for a win with feat, and honestly within 1 or 2 battles for a debuff feat. What this basically does to my own farming is it puts me in a position where now I am going to be much further behind, and my brain, which I like to turn off in that second week of conquest, is now going to be forced to actually play through my farming instead of just hitting sim as quickly as possible. It's frustrating to say the least, but again, I am still in the smaller demographic of players that, maybe we just have to change around the things that we're doing. The problem really comes into play when we consider how players farm, right? So when we look at these F-34T Training Droids, you are going to be able to apply tenacity down. Your opponents cannot get tenacity up. Nobody can die as long as the leader is alive, except by instant defeat. There are multiple glaring omissions here, but the big, major, huge glaring omission is Padawan Obi-Wan's Omicron. Padawan Obi-Wan applies buffs and debuffs through special abilities. His most important special ability is an AoE, and he will be at a Relic Delta of 4 in most cases, if not 5 in Sector 1 for a lot of players, because Padawan Obi-Wan and Master Qui-Gon are priority Relic 9 characters. That means that Padawan Obi-Wan is still going to explode enemy leaders really, really, really easily, completely negating your ability to use him in most situations, unless he's at low stamina. However, his Omicron turns off below 50 stamina. Very problematic, right? The other major problem is that CG kind of assumes that in all situations, players like to use the entire enemy team to farm feats, and that's not necessarily the case. Take, for example, the Phoenix team. They're a great thing to farm off of if there is no Sabine in the team, and if there is a Sabine on the team, she is a character that you want to kill as quickly as possible. I know there is an argument that you can use an instant defeat. You can bring in like JMK. I can do that, but I might not be farming with a team that has an instant defeat or has one right away in a battle. If I'm farming against Phoenix, realistically, I want to keep Kanan Jarrus alive. I want to keep Hera, the leader, alive. And I probably want to keep one more alive just so that I can switch between. And typically that's Chopper. The other two characters on the team, Sabine, Ezra, Zeb, I want to take them out because they take up so much time with consistent turns, and Sabine ends up being really dangerous with her AoEs that I can't have that. But unfortunately, in this new era, I am unable to do that, and I have to farm on the full team. Some other common farming teams, if I have Hux lead First Order, I want to take away Hux so that I can still gain bonus TM. I can't do that if he's the leader. A GK General Kenobi Jedi team, he has such a sticky taunt that I really want to take him out early. And I can't do that here in order to get around it to hit the targets that I want to hit. Now, the argument could be said, hey, you could just hit him. But remember, if I hit him and I kill him, the rest of the enemy team can also die now, which becomes problematic. Another major farming team for me is Mon Mothma, and when it comes to a Mon Mothma team, you basically want to kill everybody except Mon Mothma, the summon, uh, the rebel whatever guy that always keeps coming back, the Scarif Rebel Pathfinder, and if you are able to, the Chirrut because of the heal, right? So we want to take things out and keep things in, and it's just not going to happen in this new order, which means your farming is going to have to be done against full teams. That's a problem. The other major problem that is not solved by these F-34T training droids is the fact that Relic Delta is in relation to your lower enemy, your lower allied units when it comes to trying to get kills with those characters. One of the most common strategies is using Jedi Master Luke to call light side characters to get kills. If those light side characters are low level, the Relic Delta applies off of their relic level, which means they are going to be doing considerably less damage than they were before, while also taking considerably more damage in comparison to what they were taking in the past. This is not a problem if you are an end game player and you are able to take everything to relics. This can be a severe problem if we're talking about a 5 million player, a 6 million player, a 7 million player. I don't particularly have the solution to that portion of the problem, but it is a problem that still exists. And I do want to give CG credit for bringing these training droids into the game. It is a pretty decent option, but it's not 100% there yet. If we are going to go the data disk route with changes in Conquest, if we're going to say, hey, this is probably the cheapest way that we can fix this without completely redesigning how Conquest works, I think that what this training droid should do is actually make it so that the only way to kill an enemy unit is with a granted special ability. So I can come in, I can look at the team composition after I've completed that sector, and I can say, hey, I've got this thing on. I'm going to press this granted special ability. That is the only possible way for me to kill any particular character. And maybe they have to get to 1% health. Maybe they have to have been hit a bunch of times for that to happen so that you just can't cheese your way through Conquest using that ability. Maybe you can only use that special ability if you've already beaten the node in the past. I don't have the answer there, but there needs to be a way for me to say, I want to go into a battle, I want to take out XYZ characters, and now I want to be able to farm. And the F-34T training droids do not solve that problem. Maybe, thinking out loud here, instead of an ability, a granted ability that instantly kills an enemy, it's a granted ability that takes immunity off of the enemy, and it gives you a bonus turn and doesn't reduce cooldowns, right? So that the battle is exactly the same, but I can look at a character and say, hey, boom, I want them to not be immune. Or maybe everything is not immune, and hey, boom, I want them to be immune now. I want them not taking damage, but I do want them taking the debuffs. There needs to be a way where we can manage how we are farming if you are going to fundamentally change Conquest in a way and then tell us, hey, by the way, we're doing this in a way in which we are not actually fundamentally changing Conquest, but the reality is they are. I again want to stress, I do think that this is a step in the okay direction. I understand what they're going for here. I really, really wish that they would have reached out to some of us that worked with them on Relic Delta to talk about solutions so we could talk this through and kind of decide on a best case scenario. And some of the players could say, hey, what about this situation? What about that situation? That clearly didn't happen here. And I am hoping that the fact that Relic Delta is not yet active in Conquest as of today, and Conquest is not active either, but just from the data mine, that they are using this Conquest to test this fix to see if it is enough. And CG, I am telling you, it is not enough. We have to fundamentally make it so that Conquest stays the same for everybody. I understand not wanting to make it easier. I also understand not wanting to make it harder. But we are doing a lot of workaround stuff to make it more confusion and adding to the spaghetti code. With that said, I would love to hear from people in the comments. Let me know what you feel. Let me know how you think they should fix things. Don't be mean. Don't be angry. Don't curse them out. That's not helpful. Our job, our goal here is to be helpful, is to be constructive, is to make a fun, long-lasting, exciting Star Wars Galaxy Heroes. With all of that said, peace out and have a great rest of your day.